I'd like to invite Edmundo Norte up here to do a land acknowledgement. I think over Zoom we've forgotten about the land, and now that we're on it in person, we definitely want to do a land acknowledgement. And so, Edmundo, I'll invite you up to the microphone with thanks.
Good morning, relatives. I'm Edmundo Norte, son of Carlos Francisco Norte, Lenora Rubalcaba Norte, and identify as Chicano, but I'm of mixed heritage with ancestral roots in the Raramuri territory of northern Mexico. I am deeply appreciative of our district and college leadership demonstrating awareness, commitment, and wisdom in initiating our gathering today with respect and integrity by taking a few breaths here to shift our normal consciousness and acknowledge the original peoples, the original caretakers of the land on which our feet now rest. It's an honor to speak these words of acknowledgement on behalf of the FHDA community. We are present here today, acknowledge that De Anza and Foothill Colleges reside on what is the Aboriginal homeland of the Muwekma and Tamian Nation since time immemorial. And we recognize the continued persistence and resilience of their culture and community despite the adverse impacts of settler colonialism. The Muwekma and Tamian Nation continue to have a relationship with the land, one of deep respect, agreement, and reciprocity, collaborating to maintain balance. The Foothill De Anza Community College District acknowledges and supports the Muwekma and Tamian Nation in solidarity and commitment to partnership in advocating for a more equitable and inclusive future. Having spoken these words of acknowledgement, I want to invite you to take the next step of giving life to these words through the act of sharing. The land and the people who are part of it have cared for it for centuries have provided us the space for supporting the sustainability, growth, and learning of many generations of students. And so too have supported our livelihoods, with which we support our families and our dreams. We can give back to this land and its original people by sharing our green energy, our money, to support their lives, their dreams, and the restorative projects of the Muwekma and the Tamian Nation. You can do this by making tax-deductible contributions through the websites that you can find on De Anza's Office of Equity, Social Justice, and Multicultural Education. For years, I have made monthly contributions to the Amamutn Land Trust, even though their territory is to the south of where we are now, because I was not aware of the Muwekma and Tamian Nations here. But now that I do that, I have made contributions to them and continue to make contributions to the Segoria Te Land Trust of the Lijan, Ohlone, in what is known as Oakland, because that's where I live. So invite us to put awareness into action by giving back and sharing our resources with the original peoples of the lands on which we live and where we work. Aho.
Edmundo, thank you so much. And now I would like to invite Dr. Holmes, president of De Anza College, to offer a few words of welcome. And certainly we want to thank him and the entire team of De Anza that has worked so hard to make this day possible for all of us. Lloyd.
Good morning, Foothill De Anza Community College District. I tell you that, I was in a conversation yesterday where I talked about the fact that I have never experienced De Anza College full of life like it is right now. And it's these moments that I truly, truly cherish. I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to come and join us this morning. We at De Anza College, we welcome you. And we are here for you, and we want you to know that we are just so excited about our return to campus. We recognize that we are here not just to support our students, but we're here to support you as well. Because it's all of us that come together that make a family. I oftentimes say that it's not our buildings that make us the Foothill De Anza Community College District. It's our students, it's our faculty, and it's our staff. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to hearing from our students as well as our other panel today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lloyd, and Bernadine Chuck Fong, the acting president of Foothill College. Thank you, Bernadine.
I'm asking the Chancellor for permission to take my mask off before I talk. Well, I am so glad to be here. Some of you know that I was here once before, and this is a repeat. It's sort of like with the students, I told them this the other day, that, you know, if you didn't get your midterm right the first time, you can retake the exam, and I feel like that's exactly what I am doing by returning to Foothill. But what I have to say is I am so excited to be with all of you, particularly during these very, very trying times with the pandemic, and how do we sort out how we're going to return to our respective campuses. What I have seen so far, I've only been with Foothill now, back to Foothill for a month, is the energy, the vibrancy, the creativity of all of the faculty and staff and our students. And I really do think that this is going to continue and continue to help us in our transition back to campus. So I wish all of you a very, very happy holiday going forward. And I know that you will enjoy your rest. And I want to ask you to get your rest because we really hope to energize the two campuses beginning in the winter quarter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernadine. And before we go to our student panel, let me invite Peter Landsberger, President of the Board of Trustees.
Good morning. I'm here with my fellow trustees, Pearl Cheng, Laura Casas, Patrick Ahrens, and I have to confess, we're a little ambivalent. We had to put on something other than sweats this morning. We had to build in travel time to get here. And then we get to stand out in the cold. But on the other hand, we get to be with all of you, and that's great. And I am sure our students will have a similar experience, and many of them will be absolutely overjoyed that they're back and able to encounter you in real life. And that could only happen with your dedication and commitment. Thank you, and have a great holiday, and come back next term ready to go. Thanks a lot.
Peter, thank you. And now for what I think is going to be the highlight of our program today, we get to hear from our students. And so I'll have them wave to you in case you can't see their name tag from where you're standing or sitting. Joshua Contreras is active in Puente and Define America clubs and serves as Vice President of Foothill Student Government's Interclub Council. Quang Trong, a senator in Foothill Student Government and has served as an ASFC budget analyst. Susan, keep an eye on him. Catherine Lay is a biology major and chairs the De Anza Student Government at the New Programs and Events Committee. And Edgar Ramos is a student in the Puente program at De Anza. So I have 3 questions for them, and I'll give them a chance to answer one right after another. And Edgar, I'm going to start with you. And then for the other questions, I'll go down the row. You don't know who I'm going to call on first for the other ones, so I know you'll pay attention. So Edgar, would you begin by telling us what drew you back to campus and what has that experience been like for you? And then we'll have the chance for your 3 colleagues to tell their stories on that as well.
So in high school, it was really difficult trying to actually connect with my classmates. And then coming back and having the option to actually be on campus and see other people, it really opened my option to being able to connect with my classmates and actually grow and have a support system and be able to ask other like classmates and peers what was their opinion, and it made all of this a lot easier and a lot more accessible to actually be successful in the classes that I was struggling in. And it always gave me a form of, I guess, support. And it was really helpful, especially during difficult times when I was having a lot of work or I had to deal with other things outside of school.
Thank you. Catherine, how about your experience?
Ooh. Honestly, I was actually really nervous going back in person because my first class was for organic chemistry, and I actually took it this quarter, so it's really recent. But I've had a really good experience because I've had two amazing lab and lecture professors. And I think it's great to go back in person because I saw my learning habits improve so much. Because I'm not gonna lie, online learning, sometimes I can get really lazy or I forget to do things, but in person it gives me like a lot of commitment. Like I have to go in class, I show up, like I have lab partners, I have my classmates, and I have my own commitment to my team as well as my teachers and professors. So it really keeps me on track, and I'm really glad I went back in person as well. Besides that, I know our DASG, our student government, is doing our very best to push forward for more in-person classes as well as in-person activities along with our ICC and clubs. But we're doing the best we can right now, and I think we've made such a great improvement, and I'm really proud of that because we're trying not only to keep students engaged, but also make sure that we follow the COVID-19 restrictions and safety guidelines. So I think I came back in person most likely to connect with my peers and my professors, as well as get more of the college experience before I have to transfer.
Catherine, thank you. Kwong.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. So I am a chemistry major, Foothill student, and just to be on track for my transfer plan, I had to take OChem this quarter, like Catherine, and the only offerings were on campus. So that's why I was on campus this quarter. But yeah, I think but honestly, comparing the two online and in-person learning, there are a lot of differences. I think in some ways I've been learning better, in some ways I've been learning worse. For example, like Catherine said, lab partners, and really just lab in general, you can't really do online. And also for organic chemistry, there's like a lot of not shape shifting, but like shifting molecules in your mind. So it's kind of hard to imagine that over like a 2D screen. But also I think in-person learning is actually like, it's a lot more hard to ask questions in class, but it's just like over Zoom, I can just PM the professor my question and they'll answer it, but in class, I have to like raise my hand, everyone has to see me, and they know that I'm asking the question and like taking class time out. Was there a second part to this question?
I think you've done well by saying what brought you back, you had to, and then what the experience has been.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Kwong. Joshua, applause for him, yes.
So I think for me, so I was here on campus my first year back in 2019, so I actually got to see, Foothill for what it was with so many students on there. So when I was the VP of ICC last year for clubs, it was really hard to, have a connection with people. As much as I emphasized that a lot throughout the whole year, it wasn't as enough as how it was in person because I was involved in a lot of clubs and it was super interactive for a lot of people, and that's kind of what was the highlight of my college experience back then. Not really as much last year because, there was, as much as I was still able to talk to people, it didn't feel real a lot of the times, like just talking to someone over the screen instead of like being in there in person. So for me, when I was thinking of registering for my classes this quarter, I was more eager to be able to see that, or at least some part of it, but not fully to how it was back then when I was here my first year. So I was really looking forward to what is it going to look like now And I have 2 in-person classes right now. I have my swimming class, and I also have human anatomy, which I have to go to right after. So, so it's been fun to be able to build a community with other students there. So for me, it was more of like the nostalgia of what it was back then and what it's going to look like now. So that's kind of what brought me back on campus this year.
Joshua, thank you so much. Catherine, I'm going to start with you for the next question, and that is, what would improve your current experience on campus, being mindful that there are a lot of people here who can actually make some of these things happen? So you tell us what you need. What should we be doing for you and all the other students?
So right now my class is at Foothill, and this is the second time I've actually been at De Anza, so I'll be speaking more of my experience with Foothill instead. But honestly, I don't really have a lot of improvements to the campus itself, because even our lab stations, it's very clean, and like our professors make sure that like we're like at least 6 feet apart most of the time, the best that they can. Like they check our green badges every time we enter class for both lab and lecture, and we have different like lab stations all over because like the professor doesn't want us like crowding around one. So I appreciate them for thinking of our safety. But I think on campus it'll be nice if we had like different mask stations around. That's easy access for students if they forget their mask or they lose it, and different hand sanitizer stations. I'm actually not sure if we already have that, but I didn't really see many of it, so if we had more, that would be great as well. But we do have a lot of open areas at Foothill to sit, inside and outdoors. I know that, and there's like students always there to like study between classes or like after school or during office hours and stuff like that. So I think that's really great. If we have more areas like that, that'll be amazing. I think hopefully if we can, we'll have more events that can be in person in the near future, because I know students really, really want to come back to events and have a bit more fun and like improve the engagement and sense of community. But besides that, I know clubs are also really wanting to go back and throw some events, but we understand that with the safety guidelines that it might be hard, but we're willing to wait, but we're hopeful, but yeah.
Catherine, great. Kwong, let me go to you next.
Am I? Okay. Yeah, so I think one of the ongoing conversations that we've been having at Foothill about on-campus experience is having the library open. I mean, we've all come here today at 9 or 10 o'clock, and we all know how cold it is. And I have like an evening class that goes from 6 to 8, and it's almost as cold, maybe even colder then. So there are a lot of students who don't have a place to be inside while they wait. And personally, I'm part of student government, so I am able to go into the student government office, but there are a lot of students who don't have access to that. So I think right now the office hours or the library hours they close at 4, but I heard there are efforts being made to extend those hours.
Thank you, Kwong, and I think President Fong is paying very close attention.
Thank you, President Fong.
She said she's got it. Joshua.
I think for me, it's kind of the same thing as like Quang. So for Puente and Umoja students, we had this space actually at Foothill called The Village. I'm not sure if it's been open this whole quarter, but usually that was a place that would actually stay open pretty late at night. Again, it goes back to like that nostalgia thing that I had my first year, because I would spend a lot of my time either there or in the library. In the library, I actually stayed there till like the librarian was like, "Hey, you gotta go." So, so for me, because I stayed, I had late night classes back then as well. So you know, it was part of the good things that they provided to be able to stay that open that late. But same thing as Quang, you know, I am a part of ASFC, so I have access to be able to stay in that office. Again, like not other students have that opportunity because everything stays closed. But along with that, there's also a push for more in-person activities because students want to, for a lot of students next quarter, it's going to be their first time actually coming on campus. So we want to give them that experience that I had back in my first year, and I just want to help to be able to build up to that. So I really want to push for more in-person activities, though I still do want to be mindful that we will still have students online. We still have to find a way to still connect with them, but we also kind of have to focus, hey, we got to transition back. So that'd be it for me.
Joshua, thank you. And Edgar?
So I remember specifically a time when I got out of class and I was looking for a place to study and I wanted a really quiet place. And I tried going to the library, but the doors weren't open here at De Anza. And I'm not too sure what was up. I think you have to make an appointment to actually be able to go into the library. And so that was pretty frustrating. I ended up going to the cafeteria, but it was a little bit too loud for me to focus. And I guess just having that accessibility to a library would be pretty nice. I think another thing would probably be sometimes it gets pretty, I guess, dark. There's a certain area inside of the Media and Learning Center where my class is actually held. And then there's a little study area up top, but we went in, me and some of my other classmates, but the lights didn't really turn on. We didn't really know how to work anything there. So it was kind of weird and frustrating. We all had laptops and iPads, so that was okay, but we ended up moving to studies elsewhere. So I think having instructions or something to let us know how to work certain systems would be pretty nice.
I see Dr. Holmes paying very close attention. Thank you. And for the last question that I'm going to send your way, and Kwong, I'll start with you. This is where you get to make a prediction. Do you foresee a time when many, many more students would take their classes in person, and why or why not? So your predictions.
Sorry, I've been told my mic has been too close to my mouth. Is this better? Okay, cool. So I think I have two answers to this. I think compared to online learning, I think there will be a time where students will take more in-person classes because there are some classes where you just can't do online, such as lab. But I think compared to before COVID, I think there will actually be more students who will be leaning towards taking online classes because we have seen the advantages of that, and I've explained it in my previous answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. Joshua, what do you think is going to happen?
I think that's I think it's really hard to give an answer right now, but I think I'm really hopeful that, more students, it's up to them as well at the end of the day about how, they want to take classes. As much as for me, I learn better in person, people learn differently, right? So a lot of students that I talked to last year were like, hey, I'm ready to go back in person. I'm tired of this. This is really hard. As much as we couldn't do that at the time last year, a lot of them are still eager. It's just the amount of how many classes are provided that are in person. I don't know what it's looking like for other majors and other areas, at least in Foothill, but a lot of my classes that I need this winter quarter are more in person. But it also, like I said, I don't know what it looks like for others. For some of them, it might still be fully asynchronous, or they might still have Zoom. They'll still meet, but it'll be on Zoom. So I'm really hopeful that that at least more classes are provided to give those students who really want to be back on campus. So I'm not sure how it'll look like going forward for this whole academic year, but once I transfer out, I'm hoping that it'll look a lot more better than what. Not saying that it's not bad right now, but it just needs it's just gonna take time, right? Everything, we can't just rush it. And I know there's still things that we need to work on so we can be safe and equitable for all. So it's gonna take time, but I really think that we'll get back to the days of what it looked like in my first year, whether that be probably by the spring quarter or probably the next academic year. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure it'll get back to that point.
Joshua, thank you for that perspective. And Edgar, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, so I think there will definitely be a growth in students' want for in-person classes. I think especially for classes like math or literature, growing that support system, especially if it's not one of their strongest subjects, would be really important for them. especially with classes, I believe it's called MPS, where they give you a little bit of extra support. Yeah, I personally haven't taken the class, but I know someone who has, and it definitely helped them grow their math skills. And so I would say something like that. I think a lot of students would really like that back in-person support that they could have from either their teacher, like actually having them right there in person and being able to ask them a question, or even just their classmates. Like if one person doesn't understand something, maybe during work time they could like pull them aside, like, hey, can you help me right now? Instead of like being through a screen and having this weird text conversation or like private message of how can I work through this problem.
Thank you. And Catherine, you get the last word.
I agree with the rest of my peers here. Additionally, I think that even though like our professors really try their hardest to like adapt to the online learning with Zoom and all of the applications, Zoom breakout rooms are they're a little bit hard to talk in sometimes. So I think that at this point we've been online for a very long time. So most students do want some sort of like activity in person or class in person. It's just up to them what class they choose. But like Quang said, lab and like OChem series or anything that has to do with STEM, I think most of those courses students do want to be in person. It's much easier, it's much better to learn, even though it can be a little bit hard to ask questions in class because like I do get nervous too. But yeah, besides that, I think that honestly, I think most students, even though they want to be in person, we should understand that like some students also have work and other activities as well as responsibilities around their household. Like I know some students can't wake up early in the morning, like they just can't. And I think we should be mindful of that when we take into consideration the class schedules. Because I think even though in-person is very good and like most people do want that, we should also have an option of like hybrid or hyper so that we can both have online and in-person at the same time, and like different class times and schedules for students who have work and other responsibilities. Yeah.
Catherine, that's great. And Edgar, Catherine, Quang, and Joshua, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives with us today. I think we're all feeling better about the future having met you today. So thank you again, and we're going to switch over to our faculty and classified professionals panel, and we'll let you take the seats that they've got right there. So thank you again. Well, welcome to our faculty and classified professionals. I want to introduce the group to you. Ellen Judd teaches physics part-time at Foothill. Janie Garcia is the Adult Education Program Coordinator in the Outreach Office at Foothill. Maritza Ariola is a Student Activities Coordinator at De Anza. Chesa Caparas is a full-time English instructor and faculty coordinator of the Women, Gender, and Sexuality Center at De Anza College. Derek Felton. Derek works part-time as a psychology instructor and psychological services counselor at De Anza. And Scott Olson is a client systems specialist with ETS in Central Services. Thank you all for being here. So let's see, I think, Janie, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
So we'd love to hear, and I'm going to ask all of you the same question, any reaction that you have to the student comments and how that might even fit in with your own sense of what brought you back to campus and what your experience has been on campus as well. So if you maybe combine those two pieces.
Sure. You know, honestly, the students did bring to light a lot of ideas and thoughts that I want to share. And one specifically has another thing to do with one of our other questions, so I'll save that for then to save us time. But I think we've all kind of maybe had an internal struggle. I know I have with, coming back to campus, but also wanting to be safe and also, finding certain variables that are very positive in working from home or being at home. Personally, I have a medical issue that, has made me more susceptible to COVID. I'm a type 2 diabetic. And so while I am absolutely a social butterfly, extroverted type of person who does not like living an introverted lifestyle, there's been a lot of fear for me. And so I can't say that the students said that per se, but if they are feeling that way, you are not alone. We're also feeling the same way, some of us staff and faculty. And I would say that I echo the students in the support that I've received. My direct supervisors have been very understanding and supporting a gradual return. And as somebody who works in outreach, which is a student service, we kind of have some privilege in the sense that we're not very face-fronting with the students. And so as much as we invite them to our office, they don't always come. And so I definitely feel for some of my classified colleagues who maybe are more in the public, especially students who are not, or excuse me, prospective students who aren't requiring vaccination and things like that. So I can understand the fear in that sense. So I've had privilege and support in my personal experience that I probably might have not come back being a type 2 diabetic if I didn't have those things.
Jenny, thank you. Ellen, how about you?
Yeah, so I definitely want to echo what the students said about having places open, having the library open. Also, I'm teaching a lab class this quarter from 1 to 4, and then a lecture from 5 to 7. And for that hour in between, all the food places are closed, so there's no place for them to get dinner. So, I think things like that are really important for them, for all of us to feel that we're welcome on campus and that campus is really open. Also, what they were saying about connecting with other students, that's something that's been such a joy for me to see. At the start of the quarter, I asked them, do you have anybody you want to request as a lab partner? And almost every single one said, I don't know anybody in this class. And then at this point in the quarter, whenever I see them at the break, gathering outside, laughing, forming study groups, all of that, that just really makes me feel good. So I'm glad that the students are feeling that as well. As far as what brought me back to campus, I'm vaccinated, my students are vaccinated, so I really appreciate that vaccine mandate for the students. And for me, honestly, teaching on Zoom was just very slowly sucking the will to teach out of me. And so, my first day this quarter, you get up in front of the class, you start to teach, you're putting out all this energy, and then all of a sudden you just start to feel energy coming back, and seriously, I nearly wept. It's just so, it's such a different experience for me personally to have the students there. And it just reminded me, oh yeah, teaching is a two-way thing. And yeah, so that's why I'm back.
Oh, Ellen, that was beautiful. Scott.
Yeah, I've been back since before there was a vaccine. I came back in January, I believe. To the students, I guess, I don't work directly with students. I work with faculty and staff. So in my department, client services, can I see a show of hands? If you had a client services person answer a question for you during the pandemic, just, yeah. So that's kind of our reach there. But it's easier for me to be on campus because it's actually less work in a way. When I'm working at home, it's difficult to maintain a work-life balance. I found myself working more at 7 a.m. all the way until 10 p.m. when people would call. There were administrators who would call me at 9 o'clock at night. And you feel because we're in a pandemic, there is an obligation, it's an emergency situation, so I want to help you out. And I don't have that pressure here. I can say, no, my workday begins at this time and I leave at this time, and my work computer's still at work. Oh, I can't help you. But there is this odd perception that being here, you do more, and I don't necessarily think that's true. But for me, the hardest part is with more people coming back is just a safety concern with the pandemic. We still haven't eaten inside a restaurant. We haven't gone to a movie, despite wanting to see Marvel movies and things. We are vaccinated, we wear our masks, but I don't want any part of this disease at the moment. And so that's where I encourage people, if they're not ready to come back or they don't need to, please don't, because I don't want to be near you. Because if I got sick, I would probably infect the entire campus, just given my level of engagement.
Thank you, Scott. Derek.
Good morning. First, I want to thank the students for...
Derek, would you move a little closer to your microphone?
Just a little bit?
We
Okay,
want to
I'm
make
right
sure we can hear you.
Okay. Good morning.
Okay.
Thank the students for their presentation. What brought me back two things. First, I looked at parking. Parking, I was like, oh, I don't have to ride around to find parking. So that was the first thing that brought me back. And then second, it was a great opportunity to be with the students. In the teaching setting for me, I try to teach my students to find their voice. And you have students that are very, very shy. And if you're online, they're hiding their camera, you can't see them. But in person, I'm able to engage with them. And so leading by example, I think the president of the trustees stated that coming on campus, hey, I get to wear my clothes again. I get to pick out what I want to wear and see my smiling faces of my students. And so it was wonderful to see them. It was wonderful for that connection. And as my colleague said, when they came in, they were standing outside the hallway waiting, eager, ready. And when they came in, it was like, wow, this is what it's like to be back in campus. Thank you.
Oh, Derek, thank you. Maritza.
So I want to commend all of our students for sharing their perspectives, and I'm very lucky to work in a student-facing role. I've had a lot of opportunity to talk to students about how they're doing, and I also appreciate the nuances my colleagues share. I started this role July 2020, so I've only been working at De Anza since we've been online. So part of me just wanting to have the feeling of having a real office and really working at a place that exists, like all of that, I think really made me excited to come back to campus. My role is with the Office of College Life, so there's student engagement work and student resource work that we provide, some of which has still been hybrid, but particularly the resources like IDs and the VTA Smart Pass, it really made sense for us to come back to doing it in person, particularly VTA, they're rolling back the digital version of their pass the end of this year. So if you have students who depend on VTA Smart Pass and they have the digital pass, tell them to please come to Office of College Life. So we've mainly only had students that are taking classes in person or who depend on the Smart Pass. There's a big overlap of that. So it hasn't been a huge number, but I would say enough that it's important that we're here, at least in a limited sense. I will say that it's kind of speaking to what some of the students shared, of like, not knowing where they can go, what spaces are accessible. That does impact some of us who are here on campus, because we're open, they come to us and ask those questions, and we may not have that information, whether it's academic advising, questions about vaccination, stuff like that, we don't have those answers. So I think whether it's, I'm not necessarily, everyone has to be open, but clarity on what is available and what capacities, whether that's physical of a person or signage or something, would be really helpful. But it's been really exciting to finally meet a lot of my students. I have a bunch of students that I worked with last year that I didn't get a chance to actually meet in person, so it's been exciting. That's the feedback on the nuances, like the ways that some aspects of being online have been really helpful. We take that into account as well.
Maritza, thank you so much for those thoughts. And Chessa.
Thanks. So I've been teaching a hybrid class this quarter, and I just want to start off by giving many, many thanks to Jennifer Mahato, Tina Lockwood, the custodial staff, all the folks who have helped make it feel safe to come back to campus. And I also want to point out that I recognize that people might return or not return for different reasons. I have a lot of privilege in that I don't have any underlying health conditions. Everyone in my house is vaccinated, so my kids are old enough to get the vaccine. And I'm not taking care of anybody who is has health conditions. So I realize that that's things that people consider when they're returning. In terms of in response to what the students shared, I think a lot of why I wanted to come back was partly nostalgia as well. I remember, this is my 10th year teaching at De Anza, which I was like, oh my gosh, it's my 10th year. The last 2 years kind of disappeared. But the feeling of it bustling and seeing my students and just being in the classroom. I also identify as an extrovert, even though it's been kind of an adjustment to get back into that role. Being around people and feeling their energy and knowing that making genuine contact, human connection with the folks that I'm teaching has really again, like given me meaning in the work that I do. And also, like to what Scott said, I just needed a better work-life balance. I mean, and I commute from Berkeley, and so I didn't realize that I actually needed that hour drive to like decompress from my kids and like and then decompress from work going home, you know, and leaving work at work. I think I have the best work-life balance on the days that I come to campus because I can say I'm done working, I'm gonna go home and actually be with my family. Because when you're working at home and you have like kids who need you and I feel so bad when I'm like, they're trying to tell me something and they just see me staring at a screen and I'm like modeling like all the things that I tell them not to do, like get off your phone at dinner, you know, and I'm like, don't talk to me, like I'm in a meeting, you know, so it's just like that, the ability to like be present with the folks that I'm present with has changed, like has helped me a lot and really helped like my mental health. And students are also saying they're struggling with mental health, and so being present has, I think, has helped some of them in that way too.
You've all provided such great insight. Ellen, let me start with you for the next question, which is, are there precautionary steps that either you or others that have taken that do make you feel more comfortable in being back on campus?
Yeah, so for me, like I was saying, mostly it's just that I myself am vaccinated, and I know that the vast majority of my students are vaccinated. And then having us wearing masks in the classroom. Those are really the two big ones for me. I also appreciate, I know that the facilities has switched over the ventilation systems to bring in as much outside air as possible. And I also was able to get a couple of HEPA filters for my classroom. So for me that, you know, with my situation, my kids are also vaccinated. I feel quite comfortable. I know there's still some risk, but for me it's kind of fallen down into all the risks we face every day with driving and influenza and all those other things. So yeah, so mostly the vaccines and the masking.
Thank you, Ellen. Scott?
Yeah, so I guess I don't have to disclose my vaccination status, but I am vaccinated. I have the booster. It does give me some confidence, but I know people who have been vaccinated that lost their taste and they haven't gotten it back since last year. I've heard from colleagues with persistent coughs and headaches from COVID. Like, there are a lot of things that happen that are small changes to your health and safety, and that's what makes me, I guess, more fearful. I ride a bicycle to campus. My bicycle's parked over there, so I don't have to worry about parking as much as Derek does. But yeah, as far as the factors that help, like I know that you are following the CDC guidelines and all the guidelines that are listed that are out there. Just campus-wise, I think something that helps me and makes me feel safer going into offices is when people put on their masks. There are a lot of offices I enter, and I'll have to remind people, you know, put the mask on, because classified staff, by and large, I think we work in shared spaces, and so we create a better understanding or communal understanding of that, but there are folks with offices or personal offices, and I think they're more likely to take off their mask during their work, and then they leave them off, even though you may have a custodial staff member coming in, or an ETS person, or HVAC, something else, and it makes us feel safer when people follow the policies that are in place.
Thank you for that reminder. Very much appreciate that. Derek, how about you?
So it's been wonderful to go into the classroom and see that we have masks and we have hand sanitizers. But it's also about modeling as well. And so as a faculty person, it's my job to set that example. So my students, when we all walk in, we're hand sanitizing and all this and everything. And most importantly, it's about being healthy. And so I have to continue to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, then I'm not effectively being there for my students.
Thank you. Maritza?
So in addition to the college and district place guidelines, our office has received a lot of really helpful tools to sanitize the space. We also have plexiglass in front of our desk, mainly because to get your student ID, you have to take off your mask for the photos. So just that additional barrier of safety has been really helpful. You might also notice the mask that I'm wearing is clear. I'm actually deaf, so this has been essential for me to be able to communicate with my staff. It'd be helpful if more people wore them, that's fine. But I'd say just balancing safety, but also what I need to be able to do my role. That's been really important. I'll occasionally have to ask someone, if I'll step back, I'll keep my mask on, ask if they can lower their mask so I can read their lips, those kind of things. those have been interesting to navigate, but I appreciated the support and tools to be able to do that.
Oh, that's great, Maritza. Jessa?
I mean, the vaccine requirement really made me feel safer to come to campus. But I also, in my particular class, my in-person class, I gave the students a survey around like what they would feel comfortable doing in class. Do they want to sit 6 feet apart? Do they feel comfortable working in groups? Do they feel comfortable working at the board together? Shout out to Don Lee, who helped me with that survey. So I think that was another step that I took, and I think it was important also for the students because it's kind of like our pilot quarter being back on campus, and I just wanted to hear what they were comfortable with, so that I could honor that in the classroom, knowing that like we're all a little like, this is weird, and you know, a lot of them graduated high school under COVID, so they didn't know what it's like to be in a classroom like this. So, so I think that also really helped getting their feedback as the quarter started.
Oh, that was excellent. Thank you for that idea. And Janie?
Yeah, so I feel like in question one, I was able to share some of the things that have been successful for myself personally. So as classified president-elect, I'd like to share some of the colleagues or feedback from my fellow colleagues. Definitely there's appreciation and admiration for what Foothill has already done to make our campus safe, especially for our allied health programs that have been back much sooner than other parts of our campus. Absolutely, exactly. So we've had a lot of admiration and appreciation from them. But I would say that some of the concerns that are still moving forward, especially as, you know, public-facing programs and support service staff, is one, you know, with this new mutation especially, you know, are we taking into account that vaccinated people can still get sick? And if so, you know, what are we doing, and how is that testing or extra measures being put toward a vaccinated person versus a non-vaccinated person? Another point of feedback was, and I think this speaks to what Maritza said about the clarity, and that is for those of us who do serve the public, who do serve prospective students, you know, I know we've done certain things like making appointments required and things like that, but are we doing maybe enough to have clarity of what those procedures are to really help those who are still sitting at home pretty terrified of coming back? I think that there's a lot being done, but it's just a good reminder for us to have that feedback to provide, and again, Maritza, I'm going to keep using your word because I think it was so perfect, the clarity of what's in place, the clarity of where to go, and how much you can advocate for yourselves. And then I'm going to just, Chessa, again, modeling, that's exactly right? We need to make sure our administration is continuing to model and just have that modeling trickle down and go and get dispersed. I think that's one of the best ways we can build safety within our community, especially internally in our feelings. So.
That is great. Thank you so much. You know, in the interest of time, I'm actually going to go to the last question that you were told about. And I think I'm going to start with Scott. And that is, what do you think would draw more colleagues back to in-person work? What might we do that just further inspires confidence or helps people think this is a good idea?
You know, I think the necessity of the work and just knowing that you are safe here helps out quite a bit. Talking to your colleagues, establishing policies within your department, and then amongst other departments, and just making sure that they're followed. If the coffee shop were open, that would be fantastic. I'm cold. If I had a cup of coffee right now, I would feel much better. But yeah, safety is really just my number one concern. Like, I'm here to help facilitate learning and those who teach and, you know, bring our students, you know, administrators, everybody. And so I really want to do that. I'm dedicated towards doing that. And yeah, just as long as I can do it in a safe manner, I have no problem.
That is great. Thank you, Scott. And Derek, what are your thoughts on this?
I would like to see, I like to see rapid testing done for the faculty and for students. I'll give you a quick example. I had a student that was exposed, and we had to upload our vaccination shots all over again. But there was a time frame. I was going into the third week waiting for an answer to say, okay, I can come back to campus. And so if we could have a rapid testing on the campus, maybe Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or something like that, so that when students are exposed, or even the faculty, they can automatically go ahead and get tested as opposed to putting that responsibility back on them because that raises their anxiety. And now, of course, you're waiting for the test results as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Maritza?
Echo Simon, everything that was shared by my colleagues. I would say with the vaccination side, it was something we received because we're across from health center while they were closed, when the looming deadline around vaccinations was stressing our students out, and they were coming out. So again, more support, clarity, and direction around that. Safety, of course, is super important. I also say, I think for a lot of colleagues, it's understanding that support is going to look different for me than it is for Derek, than it is for Scott, than it is for many of our colleagues that are not represented on this panel. That, particularly for those, I'm thinking of those who have had to be on campus this whole time, right? Support for them, there hasn't been as much room for flexibility as someone who has been able to be online, right? I want to make sure we're thinking of them. Also, again, I know there's this desire to, go back to normal. There's, for many of you who have been working here for a while, you have that picture of what things looked like before. As someone who's been here only since been online, but has heard about some of those things, I also know there are things that were kind of a blessing. I understand Adobe Sign was something that we were only doing post-COVID. I really hope we stick with that and don't go back to watching across campus for 6 different offices for signatures. So, and then with office hours, having at least the option for Zoom for many students who aren't able to come to campus, right? At least having that option would be really valuable. So I hope in this desire for what normal can be, I hope we're honoring those things that this time forced us to do, right? Like it forced us to do things differently. I hope we'll see that those are also some opportunities that we can continue to do. So knowing that those are things that we're incorporating, whether it's for the benefit of our students, but also for our colleagues, I think that would be really impactful for us.
I really appreciate your comments and couldn't have imagined that there'd be applause for Adobe Sign. But I'm with you. I am with you on that.
Shout out to ETS right there.
Chessa.
Sure. So again, like I preface this with the statement that I know different people have different reasons for wanting to come back or not wanting to come back. But I think just having been in the classroom with my students, I'm teaching LART 250 ERIT 1A, and so the students who need the extra support, and they need it more than in the classroom. Like I've had a lot of students, and this is one of the benefits, is like after class, they can stop me and say, this is what I'm struggling with, and this is what I'm needing, and this is the resource that I need. And I'm very fortunate that I'm co-teaching with Eric Aragon, who's a counselor, so I can say, hey, like let's go talk to Eric. But if it wasn't connected to a learning community where they had a dedicated counselor, I'm like, I don't know when counseling is open, I don't know who's there, and I know that they can go online, but sometimes it's difficult for them to find those resources, or they have questions about financial aid or accommodations and all these things. And so I think, having clarity of when stuff is open, when it's accessible, who's the best person to contact for that need. Would be really helpful for the students, because as I've mentioned, and I think we've heard in a lot of surveys on what student needs are. There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of mental health stuff that's happening, not just for our students, but I think for all of us. I mean, I don't want to assume, but I'll speak for myself that it's been a really difficult couple of years, and just the more that the students can know about what resources are available would be helpful. But I also want to, just on a brighter note, I feel like the sense of community is hopefully what will encourage people to come back. Like I work in the Office of Equity, and one of the first weeks of fall quarter, it was just a bunch of us in there having lunch. I mean, we were distanced, when we weren't eating, we were wearing masks, but just to feel the energy of that space, to feel the energy of, well, I mean, it's cold, so we don't have that much energy right now, but to feel the energy of other human beings around after over a year of being isolated is just such a good feeling. And so all the times that I'm able to be in community with my colleagues really just reminds me oh yeah, that's right, this is a community college, and I'm part of a community, and these are they're colleagues and friends and students and all of that. So I think I don't know if that encourages anybody to, but if you want to hit happy hour, like, let me know, whatever.
I think we need to take signups.
Me first,
Tessa,
me
thank
first.
you. Janie?
Yeah, so I think my response to this question is really the same for both students and staff alike, and that is really, evaluating or even taking an inventory of the equitable practices that we've either added or improved upon in response to the pandemic. So I have my entire career worked with alternative education students, adult education students, which really are a majority, if not entirely, underserved populations of students, marginalized students. And I look at our enrollment numbers through the lens of we've lost the more affluent students. We've lost the students who we were already succeeding for. And we've kept or gained the students who are most valuing or getting the best value out of the equitable practices that we've added. And I think the same goes for staff, as we really need to make sure that we're not losing the population we now have with the improvements we've made while we get the other population back as well. We really need to make sure we're supporting everybody because as Maritza and Chesa have said, I'll echo the same. Everybody has such individualized, needs, and I mean that's equity right there. So.
Well said. Ellen, you get the last word on this topic.
So I think, the number one thing is just going to be to continue the good safety record that we've had this quarter, and just to be able to do that quarter after quarter and show people that we're back and we're back safely will be important. Making sure there's support for students in terms of library, in terms of tutoring, in terms of food, and also for faculty and staff. I know the PSME Dean Ram Subramanian gave all of us his cell phone number, all of us that were teaching on campus, and that just really made me feel supported. There's been a couple small issues, and even though I teach in the evening, was able to text him, and he got back to me. So that was really helpful for me. And then in the long term, when I talk to my students about why it's hard to be back, they talk about safety, but then they also talk about commute. Mm-hmm. And so thinking about housing in the long term, both for students and faculty and staff, I think will help it be possible for people to be on campus if they have housing either on campus or close by.
Well, what a group. So Scott and Derek and Maritza and Chesa and Janie and Ellen, thank you so much. We've learned a lot today, and I will tell you that I met with the consultation task force yesterday to go over a draft that I had prepared about guidance on return to campus, and some of the very things that have come up, such as all of our offices need to have, clear and predictable messages about their openings and the phone messages and the websites and all of that. And we had so many interesting conversations yesterday and really exploring different ways of approaching this, even in terms of decision making that hadn't been done yet in a lot of areas. And they all voted that I should wait until we had the town hall today before sending out the message. And I am so glad that is what they advised me to do, because the students and you, I think, have provided some additional clarification of what we do need to put out there, and I hope it will be a better message as a result of all of that. And so look for that next week, because I really want to give thought to so many things that you have all said, to have kind of that best messaging, because I do think clarity is so important. And I actually want to have the latest on Omicron, because we're getting things almost hourly on what is happening. We do know that we're probably going to have to wait several weeks. There are certainly more instances of Omicron in the U.S. Being a San Franciscan and having the first occurrence in San Francisco, and Stephen Colbert suggesting that we blow up the Golden Gate Bridge, and it won't matter that we can't get sourdough from San Francisco because you all learned how to do it during the pandemic. We're just going to be the butt of the late night jokes. I'm actually glad there are other instances now, so that San Francisco isn't picked on entirely. But you've been so helpful, and the work that you have done in inspiring our students and each other. And Chesa, thank you for reminding us we are a community college, and that has to be more than just a word. It has to be what we live. And so thank you all. And we're going to transition to opening up to questions on any topics. And we might even have to ask you some questions too. So we'll see. We do have a microphone over this way. And oh, let's give them another round of applause. Yeah. This has just been great. It really has been. So we have a microphone, so anybody who would like to ask a question, if you would come over there, and we've got a lot of people who are here that I will have, I think, let's see, was it Pippa and Carla who had, yeah, Pippa and, thank you. So we've got roving microphones for the people who need to answer the questions. And I'm guessing that a lot of the answers will come from up front here, either from the vice chancellors, the presidents, or myself, or some of our deans, some of our vice presidents. And so Edwin is taking care of the microphone there, and we will invite anybody who'd like to come forward and ask a question.
Oh, the sun's coming in.
Great, thank you. Right over there.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi,
Yes.
my name's May Lee. I'm a faculty at De Anza. Thank you for the student panel and also the faculty panel. It's great to kind of get firsthand experience or firsthand perspective and hear the experience of people who've been on campus. So I think I've got two questions. One is a broader question about kind of the direction, specifically about De Anza College and looking to what is the new normal. And then the other question is a more specific question, pragmatic in terms of spring. So I'll lead with the first question. The first question I think is, I feel like, I think there's a lot of encouragement and a lot of desire to come back face to face, but we also, I think, as Chessa kind of reinforced a number of times that, there's so many factors for any given one individual that weighs on how to make a decision if whether we feel comfortable and if we're prepared and we're able to come back to campus to teach. So I guess my first question is, what is the intended direction and where's the conversation around how De Anza wants to envision itself as, in terms of its new normal? Are we thinking that we're going to go back to 80% face-to-face, or are we thinking we're going to be, a 40% online school? Or because I think part of that is about who are our students? Who do we want to? How are we envisioning ourselves as a community college, given that we've hit this, pivotal moment of transition? What is our identity as De Anza? I think that's the question that I want to lead with. And then in terms of the more specific question is, myself, I'm considering coming back to teach in the spring face-to-face, at least partially. But from what my conversations with fellow colleagues, I understand that because we're not fully face-to-face, we don't have the students all coming back. So that means enrollment is an issue. And so I know faculty who do want to come teach, in winter or spring, but they're concerned that their enrollment in face-to-face classes may be low. And if we're subject to, the 20 student minimum, and our classes are canceled, then we have to go back to online and we bump other part-timers. So I'm just curious, I want to know get some clarity on what is the enrollment rule or policy if we are kind of slowly phasing to face-to-face, and what leeway is there, what flexibility is there for faculty who are taking the initiative to want to come back to face-to-face, but also then risk the chance of lower enrollments because as a college as a whole or a district as a whole, we're not there yet. So. Sorry, that's a lot, I know.
That's okay, and I'm sure a lot of
Okay.
people are very interested in both those answers.
Thank
And so
you.
I'm going to look to Lloyd to have the microphone.
Thank you, May, for putting me on the spot. In terms of De Anza, and I want to be very clear that I do have a partner here in Bernadine Fong. And I think that part of the response that I have, I think Bernadine would also speak the same toward Foothill. And I would say that we're not an online institution. We hasn't been an online institution, and that is not my desire whatsoever. And I look at the fact that prior to the pandemic, we were about 21% online. And I certainly still support that because I think that we as an institution have to be able to respond to the needs of our students. Our students talked to us today about the online being best for some students, but face-to-face being best. And I think that as we begin to talk about what's normal, and what the new normal is, none of us know what the new normal is. None of us have been in this situation. So what we have talked about, and I think you're going to get from the memo that comes from the chancellor. We had talked about us being back to about 85% of where we were in spring of 19. And what does that mean for us as De Anza, since you asked specifically about De Anza? If you look at about 85% of where we were in spring of 19, if 79% of our classes were face-to-face, that would mean approximately 65 to 67% of our classes for the spring quarter would be face-to-face. And I think that that's reasonable, and I think that that's the direction that we need to be moving in. I don't think that we need to be moving in the direction of a 50-50 online face-to-face institution. And I've said that our administrators, my expectation is that we are working with our managers, with our deans, that we're working with our faculty, and we're working with our staff to say, if that's where we are, what does that mean for us? Because, like I said, we haven't necessarily been there before, but we've got to recognize that we have two populations that we're having to address right now. We've got to address those face-to-face students while also providing the same level, a high-quality level of support for our students who are online. So that's the direction that I'm going in, that we're going in as a college. But no, I'm not looking for us to be an online institution at all. I think that when we look at the community support that we are able to give to students who are face-to-face, and the support, I was told the other day, one of the things that people are missing are those meetings that occur at the water fountains, and how we can make so many of those decisions when we're together as opposed to when we're on Zoom. And I think that that's important. We have to recognize that. But we do have to recognize that people have had different experiences, and we've got to try to meet those needs.
Is this on? Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate kind of hearing that from our leadership, from you, Dr. Holmes, and kind of the clarity on that. Just as a follow-up, so by spring of next year, we're hoping to be, or the 60%, is that for spring of this coming spring or at post-fall?
So what I have said is that's where we should be in spring.
Okay. So then, in terms of incentives to bringing faculty back in spring, are we also, I'm guessing if we do have that, the broader question, I guess, is, so how do we bring the faculty back, or what's the incentive, especially relating to the question I had about our enrollment policies and class cancellations?
Well, I think in terms of what's our incentive, I think one of the incentives that we have is really the voice of the request of our students and listening to what our students are asking for. We did a survey at De Anza that ended I can't remember when it ended, but it was a recent survey. And when we look at that survey, and the survey has been shared, we did an open office hour to share, and we shared the results of that survey. We see that the number of our students who are asking for face-to-face, we've got to respond to it. We've got to respond to that. And if you look at our Return to Campus website, the information is on there. And so the push that we have is truly in response to the request of our students.
And is the class cancellation policy and enrollment minimums going to be the same as they were prior to the pandemic or during the pandemic?
So we've had conversations. I've had conversations with Christina Espinosa-Peeb about that, and I think that we have to have some flexibility there. We have to have flexibility. We can't cancel. Classes that if a class is supposed to have 25 and it has 24, do we cancel that class? No, we've got to be flexible. And I think that the thing the pandemic has shown us is that we've got to figure out how to be flexible, while also keeping in mind that we do have budget constraints that we have to deal with. But I think there has to be some flexibility there as we move back to hopefully where we were in spring of 19.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Byron.
Hello. For winter quarter, De Anza College, are students supposed to scan the barcode before entering the classroom in addition to having checked in through Optimum HQ in the morning?
Ooh, I wonder, Joe, would you be willing to talk about what we've decided regarding Optum? And I want to acknowledge that our fifth trustee is here with us, Gilbert Wong. Thank you. We've got the full board here today. Thank you for modeling good behavior.
Sure. So in terms of the technology that both colleges have been using for check-in and health status reporting, I think we're finding that those are becoming less useful over time. That with the high rate of vaccination among both our employee base and our student base, that the health status report is kind of redundant. Also, and I'll stand near Maisha so she can kick me if I misspeak, but for the very few incidents of workplace or on-campus exposure that we've had, we actually have some more effective ways of doing contact tracing. So we've heard from a lot of people saying, look, we're doing this, but why? And is this something that we can take out of the mix to simplify things and streamline processes for getting students into class and getting employees into the workplace? So we are going to suspend that, and that'll be part of the memo from the chancellor. We'll suspend the use of Optimum for De Anza. Foothill's been using a different app called Moto, which is part of the student mobile app. We'll still have the student mobile app for both colleges, absolutely, because there's so many other features in both of those, like registration and fee payment and all kinds of other things. We'll still use that, but we'll stop using the health status reporting in the Moto Lab app for Foothill, effective when the boss sends out the memo. So, but did I leave anything out, Maisha? Okay, good. So.
Well, that's great news. Thank you.
Okay.
What is the replacement for Optimum HQ, by the way?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this town hall. I think just want to say that one of the things that motivates both students and faculty and staff to come back is clear and specific and often, right, communication that happens on a regular basis. So thank you for this. I hope that we continue to have these types of events where we can hear more specificity regarding health and safety measures. I wanted to know, well, I just want to share that I really want to get back to campus and be with students. I have been coming every Tuesday and Thursday. I have a synchronous class, and rather than Zoom from home, I Zoom from my office because I don't know, I miss, I miss sort of being in work mode. I never, please don't quote me on this, I never thought I would say that. But I really do want to get back in front of students and serve, the students who need to be served in person, because not everybody, one modality is never going to work for everybody, right? And in building my schedule, I was preparing to come back in the spring to teach in-person courses in Sociology 1, which is one of our major courses and tends to be a big course in the GE pattern and a major requirement for many majors. And then Omicron happened. And not to be alarmist about it, but these variants are going to continue to come up. I mean, that's just the reality. And with the development of COVID and new variants and this changing situation, I think it's important to kind of like reassess things as these things also come up, right? And I'm noticing that we still don't really have a rapid testing infrastructure here at the district. There's still not an infrastructure in place for rapid testing, and in order to sort of stay ahead of things and know whether or not being back in class is contributing to community spread, I think we definitely need something like that. So mine's not as much of a question as much as a comment. Or maybe it is a question. So what is the district planning to do to build a rapid infrastructure for testing? The other question I have is also regarding our part-time faculty. I've noticed that many part-time faculty are reluctant to come back to campus to teach in person. This is for various reasons, right? I mean, they build a very complex schedule. But one thing that part-time faculty have also told me is that they don't really have health insurance, right? If they're not working, the sort of at the threshold amount that would trigger health insurance for them, many of them are working without health insurance. So I want us to consider that we're asking teachers to go back into a classroom with 50 or 60 bodies if the class is filled, and some of them will not have health insurance. So what is the district doing to provide health insurance for part-time instructors? This is an equity question. Many of them are people of color. Many of them, are carrying the bulk of our classes in our divisions. What is the district going to do to provide for the most vulnerable instructors in the classes? And lastly, I know that there is information on the website. That's what we hear a lot. There's information on the website. However, I want to know specifically what is being done to ensure the air quality health of our enclosed spaces on campus. You've just heard from students who, they do want the library open. They do want classrooms. They want space to be warm. Perhaps we can have some heaters out in the patio also for outdoor spaces. But on the website, I looked trying to find information about MLC, which is that building over there, which a majority of our classes here on De Anza take place in. And actually, they're great classrooms because they're not fixed seating. They have a lot of space for students to spread out. The problem is that air circulation in these classrooms is horrible on a good day. And so I just want to know what's being done specifically about MLC, and this is a De Anza specific question because I looked up the information on the website and couldn't find anything. And it'd be good to know what's being done to help circulate more air or create some kind of air purification systems in the MLC. Again, a really important building classroom-wise for us. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mari. Let me say, and I don't know, Maisha, if you'd like to address something more specific about the rapid testing. That has been a recent conversation in cabinet and looking definitely at that. And, the issue of health benefits, I would certainly think that if there were going to be some changes, we'd want to look to that being an issue that we do negotiate. And so that would be there. And Susan, would you like to address the issues of HVAC and what you can say even about the MLC? Because it is a platinum building. And there are choices, I think, that De Anza may need to make about does it want to continue to have a platinum building. There's some interesting questions that I think have come up as we're looking at these issues of HVAC. So thank you for bringing those up, Mari.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was going to say, who's going to do it? So overall I'll start in general and I'll go down to the MLC. And I also have, there he is. Joe Cadiz is also here in case I go totally off on a non-technical way and he has to correct me. So across the campus, we are following, County has us following CDC and Cal OSHA guidelines in that we're using MERV 13 filters. We used to use a slightly lower level, I think it was 11. We used to change them twice a year, now we're changing them 3 times a year. We have an extremely dedicated HVAC team, and just a quick second to give a shout out to them, because again, they're another group that didn't get any time off. So they've been working along the whole way, keeping buildings going while we were gone, and now keeping them, as risk-free as they can now that we're back. So they work very diligently making sure those systems are working. We have the maximum amount of air, someone mentioned that I think on the panel, maximum amount of air being drawn in. That said, there are a few buildings on campus that don't have MERV 13 filters, and we can't do that at maximum air. MLC is one of them. And for those of you who are wondering, the other ones are the portables that are kind of out there on the other side of the Stelling, and then there's some portables over by the KCI that, the KCI that also don't have the filters. So the MLC is a unique building. It's as Chancellor Minor noted, it's a platinum LEED building. It has a buoyancy system, and here's where Joel's probably gonna cringe. It has a buoyancy system that balances air constantly. That's how it kind of keeps it warm and cold, depending on the time of year. There's more air movement in that building than any other building we have on campus. You just can't feel it because of the way it works. Because it is a buoyancy system, we can't put filters in it, and you can't open doors. That just totally destroys it. So that is kind of a bit of a challenge. We can put air purifiers in there, the HEPA filters, we can do that. But it is really difficult, and that's what Chancellor Minor was talking about, is at some point then you sort of are stuck with, okay, do we want to keep our Platinum LEED certification and maintain that buoyancy and have people, have that faith that it's working, or do we want to put something else in there? And that's really, again, a campus decision that will kind of have to be made at some point. Just for the record, I did ask the Chancellor's office, I said, so with all this LEED certification, because that's a big push now with the climate change movements, has there been any discussion about how that would affect in terms of dealing with COVID needs? And the answer was, well, we think COVID's going to go away, so no, we're not changing it. Great, I like that answer, but I don't know if I believe it. So it's kind of not, I'm probably the answer you're looking for, but like I said, is there anything else, Joel, that you would want to add to that? It's a big group.
The good thing about the LEED building is that it does work with natural ventilation, so it keeps bringing in outside air, which is the kind of air that you want to have in a building.
But I agree with you, it does feel stuffy. So.
And just really quickly on the specificity of the MLC building, I'm wondering if, while things are being reconsidered perhaps for that building, if we can think about adding exits to classrooms and windows, because that's another, I understand it's a LEED certified building, I don't know how that would change things, but even simply having windows that we can open would be great. All openings in that building lead to the hallway, and that's actually not safe for various reasons, but I just wanted to put that in there.
And that's part of the LEED design, honestly, as part of the buoyancy system, which is, again, one of those things that on the plus side, climate, on the negative side, I agree with you, safety, and then of course now the ventilation issues.
I would like to, first of all, thank my colleague Madi, who just spoke, because she was the one who actually gave me the idea, or I should say insisted upon, that we do a town hall, a live town hall, where answers could be directly received. And then I would like to thank Chancellor Minor and the rest of the administration, senior administration, for agreeing to do it that. Because I think it's a small crowd, but it's a good vibe, and that message will spread. And I would like to thank our panelists for agreeing to do this, students, faculty, and staff. Thank you so much for standing up for us.
Thank you for saying staff.
So I have two questions, one a rather global question and one a very directed question. And if you wish, you could even combine the two in your answer. So the first question is, I think we have to acknowledge that none of us has ever done a pandemic before. So, the learning curve is steep, I'm sure, and I empathize with everyone who's had to go through that process of, ordering supplies or scheduling rooms or whatever the case may be. But looking back, if you had it to do over again, what would you do differently? So that's the global question. And then the directed question is very directed. So in the CARES funding for the district, in the report forms for the HERF funds, there's one item, it used to be designated by letter H, and it includes the hiring of additional staff in order to increase social distancing. And given that the bulk of the money that has been spent from CARES funding has been for students, and I applaud the job that the district has done with that, we're rather slow on the institutional funding end of it. Why haven't we spent much more money on that in particular? I think to date it's something on the order of $300,000, and we have something in the order of the tens of millions available institutional funding. So I would just wonder, I don't know who to address that to in particular.
For the finances, I'm gonna look to Susan. And I'll invite others to answer your global question about what we would have done differently. As I look back, I would have had more town halls of this nature earlier on in the process for those larger discussions. I think those would have worked well. When I think about why it didn't occur to us or why we would not have necessarily moved in that direction, it felt like we were constantly making decisions so quickly in reaction to what was happening either at the state or the county level, and certainly with Santa Clara being the most restricted. And I can even just kind of remember the feeling, and you were there, Tim, when we had the meeting on Friday, March 13th, about closing the campus as of Monday, and that was before the state closed on March 17th. And so, you know, you look back and you think, well, should we have had a better sense of where we were going because of what was already happening in the country? And as I do look back on that, I feel this is deja vu with Omicron, because everybody is saying now that is in any kind of leadership or knowledge position in the science, we have to wait to see what may be happening. You know, the prediction is probably several weeks before we really understand how transmissible it is versus Delta. We think it is more so than Delta, and what the effects will be. The reality is we knew the COVID vaccinations would never be 100% effective, and so we knew that was going to happen. We didn't know then about the variants coming in and raising questions about the efficacy of the current vaccinations. The advice now is get your booster if you're able to at this point. Continue to be masked, even in situations where you might not have to be. And the issues about travel, people paying more attention to kind of how and where you're traveling. So, you know, I that's something. And I don't know, do any of the other folks in cabinet or our trustees or other leaders in any of other constituencies want to weigh in on what you wish we might have done differently had we done things differently? Anything else? Okay, you can always come back to that. But let me go to Susan on the CARES and HERF funding.
I'll take a second, just more of a comment, I guess, than I wish I'd done differently. I was laughing, I was going through some emails looking for some old documentation from March of, you know, when this all started, 2019, or rather 2020. And so many of them started with, well, when we're back in 3 weeks, when we're back in 3 months, when we're, yeah, I think I wish we had known we were going to be doing this for this long. That might have helped. So CARES and HERF funding, which are essentially the kind of the same thing at this point in time, there is money there to hire people to be kind of, some people have done building monitors to sort of help with that transition and that, I guess, more enforcement parcel of it. The problem that we have, and here's where I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit, and Brett was, yeah, there you are. Brett's here too, is that when you use federal funding, you can't have people do more than one thing. So that's all they can do, is just whatever's dictated by that funding. And so when we hire people to do that, we were kind of, I think, needing to wait until we had enough work for them to be doing that, which this may be the time, and the campuses, I'm sure, are having those conversations, but that's why we really haven't done it yet. It's just kind of trying to make sure that we meet the federal funding, because we do get audits. We actually have an audit finding based on HERF funding this year, so we do still have to be meeting all those very stringent federal requirements in addition to trying to spend a tremendous amount of money in a very short period of time also. So it's a balance. Brett, is there anything?
Well, what I had in mind when I was framing the question actually was, why don't we use that money to have smaller classes, hire more instructors to teach the students, since there'll be smaller classes, even if it's on a temporary basis, because I know our part-time instructors are really looking at a lean diet for the next year or so, and they would really appreciate the extra work. And as long as we have the money, let's spend it.
I don't think I mean, Brett, you can answer. I don't think we can do it is the problem. Again, those very stringent requirements that we had to meet.
So I'm going to speak of the Foothill funds, the HERF dollars, and there's been 3 rounds of dollars through this whole pandemic. The main thing we were interested in at Foothill College was the safety of our students, the safety of our staff and faculty, obviously. So we kind of broke out the funds so we can support the safety first. Looking at students, there's a student portion of the funds. Our financial aid department, Kevin Harrell and his team have done an incredible job of getting students money for food, for housing, for all the things that they've been impacted for the coronavirus. So that's been a really high priority. And then we have actually allocated, at one point we did allocate funds for if we had smaller class sizes. We have a scheduling task force at Foothill College, and finance is working with instruction, and whatever's coming out of those conversations, there is the flexibility for that possibility. But again, as Susan mentioned, we are under these really strict federal guidelines. We want to make sure that we're following those federal guidelines no matter what we do. So, but it's a conversation, and whatever the needs are, if it's a safety aspect, you know, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing that. But it's really, there hasn't been the need to spend those dollars. Out of scheduling task force for Foothill College, there hasn't been a need to break up the classes and reduce them. At least that hasn't happened. So, but yeah, so that's kind of what we've done with our dollars. Yes.
Thank you both.
Good morning. It's good to be back here at De Anza College. I used to be the MPS counselor here about 2 or 3 years ago. So I just want to share my experience because I was on campus this quarter, the entire quarter with my students, because the MPS program is that type of position. If we're having classes on campus, there needs to be a counselor in the classroom. So my experience, the good news is that we did not have any COVID cases in the classroom this entire quarter. I think Foothill College has been doing an exceptional job in providing us PPE equipment, masks in the classroom, Clorox wipes, and also the green badge. Students have been really respectful and really on top of checking in, making sure that they're checking in and walking into the classroom and showing the professor the green badge. I also have been kind of asking students, okay, providing support for the professor once the student comes in, making sure they have their mask on, making sure that they have the green badge. But no COVID cases in our classroom, so that's, we had 2 sections, okay? Monday through Thursday with pre-calculus. But I want to share this one experience in which I received a text message from one of my professors in the pre-calculus class. And this shows how significant and how important having 2 worlds, the virtual world and the on-campus world, can be such an important, significant part. Well, there was this student in the classroom who, in high school, had accommodations, freshman student. This student was struggling in the first few weeks of the class. It was really shy, kind of was holding back. So the professor reached out to me, hey, Luis, can you check in with the student? So I was like, okay. So that's when I found out the student had accommodations in high school. So we sat down. I made sure that the student would not leave the tutoring center. So once he completed, he could leave the classroom, right? The application for the DRC. Well, he completed the online intake form right there at that moment, because that's when I requested the student to sit down. So that's the on-campus. The virtual, I just heard from the professor that this student received his medication from the DRC services and the accommodations because I was able to help the student and guide the student through that process, because it can be difficult guiding a student through that online virtual world because we don't have time as counselors, because we only have 30-minute appointments. If we're on campus, we can show them, they can step out of our office and complete the form, they have any questions, and they can come back to us. The virtual world, the student completed the application and DRC was immediately reached out to the student, and now the student, the professor texts me, hey Luis, I don't know how you helped Keegan, but, sorry, I don't know how you helped this student, but this student now is doing so well in the classroom. Now, that's the important part, because the virtual world was able to provide those resources while the MPS counselor was there in the classroom to help the specific student. So I just wanted to share my experience how both worlds are really important. I do agree with that faculty returning to campus will benefit our students. We have to have both worlds. So far, my experience at Foothill College being on campus is the reason why I'm there is because of my daughter. She returned to school, and she's only 7 years old. And also, I feel for the teachers also, because knowing little kids, son mocosos, you know, they're coughing, they have their masks off, you know, and adults, I can feel assured that I'm working with adults, and also that when I go into the classroom, I know that the students are safe, they're wearing their masks and so forth, so that makes me really comfortable just coming to work. And what makes it a lot easier is that I love my job. The commute has been a lot better from 85.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing is that during the pandemic, my car got broken into. On the left side of my car, I don't have a window. However, though, that's not stopping me from getting on the 85 and coming and helping my students. Because at the end of the day, I was walking on this campus as a student. I was walking on this surface here. I was going to the classroom. And one of the biggest influences were my counselors. So just having someone there and guiding you, I think that's what I want to do. And that's why I came back to campus. And I didn't have to. I could have been, you know, decided, but the MPS does not work like that. MPS, if it's on campus or virtual, we need a counselor in there. So once Ron made the decision, okay, we need to have 2 classes here, immediately I called my dad, can you come help me with the battery? You know, because my car was broken down a whole year, not starting the car. I don't know anything about cars, but it didn't start. So I knew once we had those 2 classes on campus, I know I had to take the steps to start returning back to campus. So I actually started preparing myself back in March 2021, starting getting that mindset, okay. And the last thing I'd like to end with is I did a speech this week because finals are coming up next week. And this is a speech I give to my students every quarter, and it feels really good just being in front of them. That the quarter system here is kind of like a championship boxing match, where there's 12 rounds. In the quarter we have 12 weeks. So if you get knocked down, you still have the other rounds to keep pushing. So that's what I tell myself, and it felt really good just saying that in person rather than in the virtual world, because I saw their heads nodding, I saw their eyes kind of light up, and them looking at me. So I really felt good sharing that speech with them, because life is like a boxing match. You get punched, you get knocked down, you get back up, and kind of like COVID. COVID's been beating us up. We just gotta keep it's like adjustment. We adjusted. Soon as March 2020 hit us, Foothill College and De Anza College adjusted. Foothill College did an amazing job because we already had kind of like the online set. It's just, okay, we need to get the counselors on Zoom. How do we provide that training? And thanks to Dr. Charles, we've been doing an excellent job in delivering those resources to students. It's like counseling has been at the forefront of helping students. So I just want to end with that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tina Lockwood, and my grounds custodial facilities and ETS colleagues and I had emerged a little sooner. And I wanted to share some observations. Number one, what kept me feeling safe this whole time is mask discipline. So even if I thought I was by myself, I would keep my mask on because someone would come and see me. And that would help keep them safe as well as myself. The other thing that I wanted to point out is I've come across all of the students where the online virtual tools have failed. I've seen many, many students come to campus because I just need to talk to someone. And everything was closed. And poor Nazi and Lisa were foolish enough to give me their cell phone numbers. So I would text them, I have a student who needs this or that. And I was able to email things and text things, but we do need a presence to help them. And myself and grounds and facilities and the custodians, we're not very good at that part. So, thank you very much.
Hi, folks. So for those of you who don't know me, or maybe you don't recognize the human form of me, my name is Dawn. I'm a faculty director, professional development here at De Anza. I just have two things I just want to say. So I really want to acknowledge all of the faculty who are here, both part-time, full-time. I also want to acknowledge the counselors. For those of you who I have had the pleasure and just the time to get to know you virtually, I just want to say that I've seen incredible amounts of resilience with you all during these past 2 years. And if it hasn't been said specifically, I just want to say I see you. I just want to acknowledge all of the work and all of the amount of effort that you've put in. Yes. And I think that part of that resilience, right, has come from each and every one of you in ways where you have to be here not only for your students, but for each other. And it's been, an amazing 2 years that I've been able to be with you all. And also for those Foothill faculty who have found their ways, your way into my workshops, I see you too, right? Because I know that there are Foothill folks here. So I want to say that first. Second, we have an amazing panel here, and we have a few students here as well. I actually have a question for you all, okay? So, all right, this is for you all. Are you ready? Okay. So, moving forward, right, as we're thinking about our future, right, I want to know from each of you, and really no pressure for each of you to answer this question, but what are the things that you need, the things that you also see the folks that you represent, for those of you who are in, elected positions, what do your people need to continue being resilient? What are the things that you and the folks that you work with need from our college to be resilient as we're transitioning, as we're emerging from this pandemic? And students, if you want to address this as well, because I feel like we also need to hear your stories and the people you work with, your stories as well. And while you're thinking about that, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I just have a quick question, so I'm going to give you a moment to think about that. I'm wondering if we would consider putting together some kind of COVID, pandemic, dashboard. We have some colleagues, other institutions nearby us who have on their website a dashboard where consolidated, where we're not only able to share information, but also the, infections and all that stuff. I found that really, really helpful, just, for us to consider. Okay, so if anybody wants to address that, that's okay, but I'm going to throw it to the panel and the students. Please let us know, what are your needs, what are the people you're working with, the students you're working with, what are your needs, and what would you like to see happen in terms of continuing to be resilient?
I don't mind going first. Is this thing on? It is. Wow. People are on top of it. Thank you so much. I immediately just think about our fellow classifieds over at Foothill College specifically. And, I've only been in higher ed now at Foothill for less than 2 years. I've learned a lot, though, really quickly, thankfully. So just being in education in general in this state, in this country, we know that there's a lot of structure involved, right? And higher ed is definitely ahead of the game with that. But in any kind of business community, we still have our politics, we still have our optics, and we still have the interpersonal camaraderie that happens on a campus or within a business community in general. And so I think for classified, what I hear the most from my colleagues, and I can relate to as well, is the way we're regarded. You know, to give you a concrete example, I'm not in this department, so I don't begin to know the nuances involved, but to have counselors being, you know, at home and taking virtual appointments versus counseling support staff being in the office, you know, those are very delicate things to navigate. And again, I don't know the details. I'm really just giving an example of how we look at the way, sometimes even naturally existing in the system, right? We don't all write the rules, that we look at our certificated staff versus our classified staff and how we regard them. I think that that's an extra cherry on top of the difficult Sunday the administration already has, to make sure that that camaraderie and that safety is being felt and not just experienced.
Thanks, Janie. I'll just back up on the classified staff real quick, because the classified staff were the people who set up the microphones, the speakers, you know, move the tables and chairs. I think Becky did quite a lot. There's a lot going on here, and I think that we have everything we need. We have the creativity among us. That's why I feel confident, like moving into the ACE president position, is because I believe in our classified staff. I think what we need is almost support for that to expand, because just a lot of times there can be barriers to it, but we have great ideas. Just like Tina took it upon herself to text and create a network so that we can continue to communicate. I think things like that, if we had that on a broader level, we could maintain the campus with this virtual hybrid environment if we had a better communication structure. Yeah, so I would say establish that, and then we have the potential. We just need the system to do it.
I think I'll add with your question about resilience. I'm going to say that human connection. You know, if you think back to 2018 and 2019, this campus was full, and people were walking by and having lunch and everything. And now we have to wear a mask. We have to be mask compliant. So that acknowledgement, whenever you see someone on campus, don't just walk past us. We need to engage with each other, because the way we smile is through our eyes, and that's going to continue to feed us and build our resilience.
So I'll speak briefly in my role as a part-time representative on the Academic Senate. So when I speak with part-time faculty, there's a lot of concern about scheduling, whether they will get a class or not. There's concern about health benefits, as was mentioned. There's concern about long commutes. And then there's also a difficulty for many part-timers of really feeling like part of the campus. Often they don't fully understand all the nuances of their contracts. They're not sure who to ask for help if they have a question about something. And so that's been one of my goals serving on the Academic Senate, is to bring the part-timers in and help them feel more a part of things. It's been really difficult with the pandemic, but just to make sure that the part-timers have the information that they need. And also, I know there's a lot of delicate things to consider in scheduling, but that they are, you know, treated fairly in the scheduling process.
I want to say, as a faculty person, I think that, you know, as we're moving into a new normal, like it's going to be a hybrid world. And so one of the things that would help me, and your office has been really helpful already, Dawn, and online ed also, is just like, how do we adapt to these like new hybrid like teaching environments? And, you know, one of the things that was a great benefit of teaching on Zoom, and, you know, Maritza and I work on disability justice stuff, so to be able to have captions, right, for our classes and for our meetings. And so how can we, if we're meeting in person, continue to offer that for our students, because I teach a lot of English language learners, and so, you know, having captions, you know, is also helpful. So, you know, just as we're evolving into this new hybrid world, like, how can we take the best of the technology and what it has to offer, but use it to continue to enhance the human connection, right? So that's what I would want.
I feel like all of my colleagues said spoke to this beautifully, and I appreciate Shasta speaking that, so I don't have to be the only one who speaks on it. But I'm just, again, I think there's a lot to be gained, particularly from a disability perspective, where we always have to adjust. We always have to adjust to barriers that are constantly in the way, that a lot of folks aren't familiar with. Like, there's, for many people, one way to communicate, one way to learn, one way to move, and this situation the last 2 years has forced us to think differently. I hope we can take that with some gratitude, move with that, and in the ways that have been shared, move with that, make sure that we're always thinking about who's not at the table when we're having these conversations, student, staff, and faculty, that, again, we're thinking about the many different kinds of student situations that would really benefit us from us looking at things differently, not just before, whether it's students who are not in the country, back in the country yet, students who are working and relying on different hours or ways to be able to connect with resources, just all those things, making sure we're thinking beyond our own lens, thinking of other experiences when we're doing this planning of work.
Well said. Thank you. And do the students, do you all have anything you want to share as well? I'm just trying to hold space for you too.
No pressure.
At the beginning, I didn't really feel like sharing anything, but I guess thinking about certain situations, especially within friends within my class, a lot of them are looking to move a lot closer to the area. There's actually a lot of people who are coming and commuting like hours drives. There's literally someone in my class who's coming from Lodi, and it's over like an hour drive for them every single time that they come over here, and then they have to drive back, and that's where their home is at. So I think something that could really help is like some sort of affordable living or some sort of affordable like renting area that we can possibly like, it's accessible to us as students. I think that would definitely help, especially people of color. We have a lot of, I guess, barriers that we have, and especially some of those areas that we're living in, they're not gonna be the best. And so I guess something close to the school and close to a nicer area would definitely help us, I guess, succeed in school, and not only school, but also life.
I've heard from a couple of my peers and friends that like there are some students who don't have a place to stay like at night or something like that. I've heard something around that floating around, and we tried to have De Anza like open up like a couple classrooms to have students stay there, and either at night or like till night, to make it more accessible for school and staying over, because housing can be a bit difficult, and sometimes if they're at home and they don't have the space because their parents are like working in the same area, or they have siblings and they have other things going on, then if we have a space for students to come here, like classrooms that are open or anything like that, or cafeteria, then that might be really good too. Like the more the better, but yeah.
Okay, so I think this question was more directed towards De Anza, but I am a Foothill student. So any Foothill staff out there?
This is for you.
Yeah. And actually, I don't know if Brett's in the audience. Brett, hi. But yeah, one of the topics I want to talk about is actually about my Senate board project, and it's about increasing campus safety. And I was trying to establish some sort of student-run program to help aid students with night classes and provide them with like an escort back to their car, because I know that walks at night alone are really scary. So there are some details still in the works. If there are any people out there who can help with this, please email me. Okay.
Thank you.
And Don, I will take your question to Cabinet about a dashboard, because That has come up before, and I know the programs that you've mentioned. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and my apologies to people who were waiting in line for a question. If you want to send your question or comment to Chancellor at FHDA, I want to make sure that that's accounted for. I want to use the last minute to get to the 12 o'clock hour to thank everybody for being here. I think this really was a wonderful event, and I think we will definitely have to repeat these. We're certainly thinking about a lot of activities that we've done over Zoom that we would want to keep well into the future because it has allowed for a lot more participation. We didn't do Zoom today because we figured it was going to be really complicated outdoors. But over time, I'm sure we're going to be able to expand the capacity for doing things in a hybrid model. So would you please applaud our panelists one more time? They were just great. And again, De Anza, thank you for hosting us. Becky Bartendale, thank you for so much support that you provided me in being here today. And I think there might still be some snacks. And Foothill, I know there's a lunch for you at your campus, and I'll be seeing you there shortly. So thank you, everybody, again.